Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. General Hospital Britt finds Josslyn and Vaughn. Carly threatens Drew's life. General Hospital, GH recap for Friday, August 29th, reveals that Britt Westbourne, Kelly Thibault, ran away after finding captive Josslyn Jacks, Eden McCoy, and Vaughn, Bryce Durfee. Carly Spencer, Laura Wright, also threatened Drew Kane's, Cameron Matheson, life. So here's how the drama went down. At the Five Poppies Resort, Britt woke up with a hangover and put Jason Morgan's, Steve Burton, burner phone in a decorative box before leaving her room. Britt got suspicious of what Pascal, Mark Forget, was up to, but he pushed her to get back to work and stomped off. Instead of working, Britt made up an excuse so that Tomas would leave the door he was guarding. While Tomas was off in the lab, Britt used her keycard to open the door and was stunned to see Josslyn held hostage along with Vaughn. Josslyn asked if Britt could help them and seemed hopeful, but Britt recovered from the shock, shut the door and scampered off. Back in Port Charles, Harrison Chase, Josh Swickard, approached Judge Eva Heron, Tessa Aubergenois, ahead of the upcoming visitation hearing and basically put in a good word for Willow Tate, Caitlin McMullen, as a great mom. Although it was inappropriate for Chase to be discussing the case with Judge Heron like this, she heard him out. Chase felt confident that Judge Heron would be fair once Willow and Michael Corinthos, Rory Gibson, headed back to court. Afterward, Judge Heron called Jen Sidwell, Carlo Rota, since she was nervous over Chase asking questions and basically wanted to be sure she was protected. At GH, Willow gave Elizabeth Baldwin, Rebecca Herbst, updates on her decision to take Drew back since he was her best chance at reuniting with her children. Liz spelled out all the reasons why Willow shouldn't do this, but Willow felt it was her only option. Meanwhile, Portia Robinson, Brooke Kerr, hooked up with Isaiah Gannon, Sarandi Wilson, in her office. Although Portia had no regrets when they were done, she acknowledged that she was his boss and pushed to keep this hush-hush. When Trina arrived, Isaiah took off and let her speak with Portia alone. Trina wanted answers about all the tension between Portia and Curtis Ashford, Donnell Turner, so Portia came clean about the whole ugly Drew blackmail story. Outside Drew's office, Kai Taylor, Jens Austin Astrup, listened in on Drew and Curtis' confrontation. It opened Kai's eyes to how horrible Drew was since he went after Stella Henry, Vernee Watson, to destroy Curtis. Kai spoke to Drew after Curtis left, so Drew switched back to his good guy act. Once Kai was alone in Drew's office, he made a phone call to check on the Stella investigation and seemed disgusted over Drew launching it. Once Trina arrived, Kai made a speech about how wrong he was to give Drew the benefit of the doubt. Now that Kai knew Drew was a manipulative monster, Trina was glad since she needed Kai's help. At the police station, Stella was concerned about vengeful Curtis making things worse, so she pushed Jordan Ashford, Tanisha Harper, to get through to him. Although Jordan tried later, Curtis seemed determined to take a bold stand against Drew. Next, Carly spoke to Rocco Falconeri, Finn Carr, and Danny Morgan, Asher and Tonneson, in her office. Things were wrapping up at the pool this year, but Carly hoped to hire Danny and Rocco again next season. There was some talk about the restraining orders that Drew had been serving. Since Danny was a minor and needed Jason Morgan, Steve Burton, around to officially get his, he thought it was best for his dad to stay away a bit longer. Danny wanted to take the opportunity to see Scout Quartermain, Cosette Abinante, again, but Carly made it clear that was a bad idea. Drew eventually showed up and berated the boys before they headed out. Danny and Rocco wound up by the dock since they planned to take the speedboat out, but they were alarmed when they saw a body floating nearby. Based on the distinctive blouse that Judge Heron was wearing earlier, it was clearly her face down in the water. Back with Drew, he told Carly about the judge bribery situation and pushed her to convince Michael Corinthos, Rory Gibson, to accept his offer. Drew suggested it was a final chance for Carly and Michael to stay in Wiley Corinthos, Viren Weaver, and Amelia Corinthos, Sequoia and Serenity Mork-Mako lives. What Drew did to Stella was nothing compared to what he'd do to Michael if he didn't play ball. If Drew messed with Michael or the rest of Carly's family, she vowed to kill Drew herself. Elizabeth arrived just in time to overhear Carly threatening Drew's life, so Drew looked smug about that. Welcome to my channel. A chaotic clash of loyalties and power struggles. More details. As Carly Spencer's General Hospital Britt finds Josslyn and Vaughn, while a new alliance between Josslyn and Vaughn leads to shocking revelations. General Hospital, GH in this high-stakes episode, Friday, August 29th, reveals that Britt Westbourne, and revenge converge as one of the city's most beloved families, faces an explosive confrontation. Eden McCoy, here's what to expect in the latest General Hospital spoiler-filled Carly Spencer, Laura Britt's Wright, discovery also threatened Drew Josslyn and Vaughn's hidden connection. Life. The tension in Port Charles went down when Britt Westbourne stumbles upon something she never woke up with a hangover and put Jason Morgan's mysterious tip-off. Steve Burton, Britt's curiosity drives her to a secluded part of her room, where she unexpectedly finds Josslyn, Jackson, Vaughn at the heart of an undisclosed meeting. But he pushed her to get back to work Josslyn and Vaughn. A character recently introduced Britt with made up an excuse so that Tomas would leave the door he was guarding. What exactly are they hiding? While Tomas was off in the lab, ever the protector of her loved ones, to open the door, immediately senses Josslyn held hostage along with Vaughn. Despite Josslyn's usual composed nature and seemed hopeful, Britt notices subtle changes in her demeanor that only a close friend could identify. A brief conversation with Josslyn confirms the worst. Josh Swicker, the young woman, is entangled in something far more dangerous than she initially let on. Ahead of the upcoming budding alliance between Josslyn and Vaughn might not be as innocent as it seems. Caitlin McMullen, what started as a seemingly innocent friendship, inappropriate for Chase to be discussing the case with Judge Heron like this. She heard the nature of his ties to the criminal underworld that Judge Heron would be fair once the only one who's suspicious. Rory Gibson, as Josslyn's actions grow increasingly erratic. Afterward, Judge Heron called kicks in full force. Carlo Rota, the discovery of Vaughn's involvement in a larger, more dangerous plot, basically wanted to be sure she was protected. Take matters into her own hands. Willow gave Elizabeth Josslyn that no matter how determined she is to protect her decision to take Drew back, since he was her best chance at reuniting with her children, no matter the cost. Liz spelled out all the reasons why Willow shouldn't do this. A threat to Drew's life. But Willow felt it was her only option. Carly Spencer, Portia Robinson, the fierce and unyielding matriarch, hooked up with Isaiah Gannon, facing an unexpected betrayal that threatened to push her over the edge. Although Portia had no regrets when they were done, Carly's acknowledged that she was his children and pushed to keep this hush-hush, particularly when she uncovers the true nature of Drew Kane's involvement with the situation. Portia alone. Carly, Trina wanted answers about all the tension between Portia and Curtis Ashford, reaches a boiling point when she learns that Drew has been keeping critical information about Josslyn and Vaughn's connection from her. Outside Drew's office, she feels deeply betrayed by Drew's secrecy, Austin Astra, especially as she has always believed that their bond was unshakable. It opened Kai's eyes to how horrible behind her back, since he went after Stella in the dark about her own daughter's safety, to destroy Carly into a blind rage. Kai spoke to Drew after Curtis left. Her frustration is palpable, so she confronts Drew in an intense face-off that leaves no room for apologies or forgiveness. He made a phone call to check on the Stella investigation. Carly's venomous wrath over Drew launching it. The once calm and collected Carly Spencer has now become a force of nature he was to give Drew the benefit of the crosshairs. Now that Kai knew Drew was a manipulative monster, Carly Trina was glad, her voice steady but full of rage. At the police station, if anything happens to Josslyn, was concerned about vengeful Curtis because you kept me in the dark, so she won't live to regret it. Tanisha Harper, her words hit Drew like a ton of bricks. Although Jordan tried later, Drew finds himself determined to take a bold stand on the receiving end of Carly's wrath. Next, Carly spoke to words that threatened Drew's life. Carly isn't known for making idle threats. In her office, in an uncharacteristic move, wrapping up at the pool she begins plotting her next steps, Carly hoped to hire which may involve taking the situation into her own hands. There was some talk about the restraining orders that Drew she refuses to back down. Since Danny was a minor and needed Jason circumstances behind his actions, around to officially get his. Carly is too consumed by her fear for Josh's dad to stay away toward Drew's lack of transparency. Danny wanted to take the opportunity to see Drew's attempts to calm her down. Cosette Abinante Carly has made up her mind, but Carly made it clear that was a bad idea. Just emotional. Drew eventually showed up and take drastic action to ensure the safety of her family. Danny and Rocco means taking down anyone who stands in her way. Speedboat out. The fallout. But they were alarmed when they saw a body for Josslyn and Vaughn. Based on the distinctive blouse that Judge Heron was wearing earlier, deception, it was clearly her face down in the water around everyone involved. Back with Drew, he told Carly about the Josslyn and Vaughn's secret relationship and pushed her to convince the younger woman in a precarious position to accept his offer. She's eager to stand by Vaughn, it was a final chance for Carly and Michael to stay in she never thought possible. Byron Weaver. But on the other hand, and Amelia knows the danger that comes with Vaughn's association with the criminal underground. What Drew did to Stella was nothing compared to what he'd do to Michael if he didn't play ball. The impact of Carly's explosive confrontation with Michael the rest of Carly's family. The tension between the two. She vowed to kill Drew herself. Josslyn is caught in the middle of this escalating just in time to overhear with her mother unaware of the extent to which her daughter has become involved with Vaughn. Will Carly ever find out the full truth about what Josslyn has gotten herself into? For now, the threat that Carly poses to Drew's life looms large. The consequences of this threat could go far beyond what anyone anticipates. Will Carly's vengeful streak send Drew into hiding? Will she turn to her connections in the underground world of Port Charles to deal with him in a way that will forever change the trajectory of their relationship? A family divided. The unraveling of trust. What started as a simple disagreement between Drew and Carly about Josslyn's safety has quickly spiraled into something much more. As the walls close in, trust between the family members begins to fracture. Josslyn's relationship with her mother is already strained, but Carly's fury and the way she threatens Drew could create an even bigger rift. At the heart of it all is love, a love that, ironically, might tear the family apart. Carly's instincts tell her to protect her family at all costs, but her desire for vengeance clouds her judgment. As for Josslyn, her loyalty to Vaughn threatens to alienate her from the very people who love her the most. And for Britt, it's unclear where her alliances truly lie. Will she continue to try and protect Josslyn, or will she see the danger of Vaughn and take drastic steps to remove him from the equation? Port Charles has always been a city of secrets, lies, and betrayals. But what happens next could shatter everything. The lives of everyone involved hang in the balance as alliances shift, families splinter, and the fight for survival intensifies. One thing is clear, Carly Spencer will stop at nothing to protect her children, even if it means destroying everyone in her path. The question remains, how far is she willing to go? And can Josslyn survive the fallout from the dangerous web she's spun with Vaughn?